The Kelpie was stirring. She knew something was wrong. Occasionally she would swim up to the surface just to check that all was okay. There was nothing to see. All felt normal, but there was an uneasy feeling in the air. The Kelpie returned to her lair, where she would wait until the time she was needed. Spring had arrived at the Crannog. The fields had been ploughed, the crops had been planted. The animals were in the fields. Lambs and calves were still brought into the house to keep them safe from danger, as they were still vulnerable to attack from wolves and lynx. Blossom was on the trees, and the community was able to relax a bit, as they knew that all was well with the world. Life was good. As night fell, Arthur and Inez were sitting by the fire, discussing the news of the day. Kaya brought out her lyre and strummed away as the smoke drifted to the roof, and her friends started to sing along and clapping to the beat. Kaya's mother handed around bannocks and mugs of nettle tea, and everyone just started to chill out and settle down for the evening. The young animals were snuggled up to their mothers. All was well. Life was good. The full moon was high in the sky. At this time of year it was known as a pink moon. The stars were shining bright. A single cloud floated in front of the moon. For a moment the moon was hidden, and all the world went dark. Maeve was walking by a noise. It sounded like a rumble of thunder in the distance. She turned over and went back to sleep. A few minutes later the noise got louder and closer. Sula and Karin woke up and asked each other what was happening. They got up and looked across the loch. They could see that the waves were getting bigger and higher, and the wind was getting up. They could feel the bridge shaking and hear the wind whistling through the thatch. They ran back to the house and woke up their parents. Quickly they woke the rest of the community, and they all rushed to the bridge. The waves were now crashing over the bridge, and it was shaking even more violently. As quickly as possible, the people on the bridge ran towards the shore. Finn ran back into the house to open the animal's pen to help them get safely to land. Once they were safely across, he started to run over the bridge, but the waves were now engulfing it, and the stilts which held it up were beginning to fall over. And just as Finn reached the shore, the entire bridge collapsed right into the loch, and the house stood alone. Suddenly the moon reappeared and moonlight shone all around. The waves stopped and all was still, but the devastation was now clear, and life was now not quite so good. As the light started to reappear in the morning, the Crannog folk looked at the devastation. The bridge had completely disappeared. Only the stumps of the stilts showing above the level of the water. The rest could be seen scattered on the loch bed. More alarmingly, the house was tilting to one side, and it was apparent that some of the supports holding it up had fallen over too. Kaya's mother looked at it and started to weep. What are we going to do? We have nowhere to go. We have nowhere to live. Who will help us now? Kaya was deep in thought, and without anyone seeing, wandered off, hatching a plan in her head. Things were going to get better. Karen and Finn looked out to the loch and could see a fleet of logboats making its way towards the shore. The folk all waved to each other, and soon the boats were being tied up on the beach. As everyone came off the boats, they were carrying skins, lots of woolen clothes, and pots full of flour, grain, eggs, cheese and honey. One of the men even had a wild boar slung over his shoulder. The leader of the first boat said, "We have heard of your troubles, and we would have come to try and help. We have food, we have clothing, we have rope and things to help make shelter. We know that you would do the same for us, and we need to help you." Life was getting better. Kaya stood on the shore and looked out to the depths of the loch. There was a tune in her head and she started to hum it. And soon she was singing out loud. The tune sounded like water lapping on the shore, and as it got louder there was a magical lyrical tone to her voice, almost as if it was coming from somewhere deep inside her. As she sang, the ripples appeared on the surface of the water. The ripples got bigger, turning into waves. Suddenly, to Kaya's surprise, the head of the Kelpie appeared, and it was swimming towards her. As it got closer, she could see its black mane glistening in the sunshine. Its body started to appear from the water, and soon the Kelpie was on the shore by her side. Life was beginning to feel much better. The folk of the Cranachan from around the loch were standing around a roaring fire, feasting on wild boar, and discussing what to do next to help repair the bridge and the house. Artair wiped grease from his chin and said, "I have a plan. If we all get together and go up the hill, we can chop the trees we need to make the repairs." Inez looked at him and said, "But that is going to be such a tough job. It may take months and we need to have a bridge to the house before winter arrives." Scylla looked thoughtful and said she would go round the nearby villages and ask for help. Still won't be enough people, but do what you can. Finn looked to the shore and exclaimed, look, Kaya is on the beach with a big black horse." Kaya's mother exclaimed, "That's the Kelpie. The Kelpie helped us before and maybe it can help us again." Inez said, "If we take the beast up the hill, she can drag the trees out of the ground and pull them to the shore, and once we have prepared the wood, she can swim out and take it to the places we need it. We will start in the morning at first light of the sun." The Cranach folk settled down for the night, and Kaya took a blanket to the beach and spent the night sleeping by the side of the Kelpie. Things were getting much better. Over the next few days and weeks, the community worked to repair the bridge. The Kelpie had the strength of 1,000 horses, and the job was finished in a time that could never have been imagined. Once it was finished, and the Cranach folk walked back over the bridge to their house, Kaya took the bridle from her friend, and the Kelpie swam down to the depths of the loch to await the call from the Cranach folk when they might need her help again.